HSBC. A warm welcome to all of you, and I'm going to hand it over to Camilla to take this discussion forward.
Thank you very much, Anisha, and thank you to the team at BFSI to inviting me here today to lead this panel discussion, or rather fireside chat. We just have half an hour, so I think fireside chat is good because we need to keep a bit of tempo to get through all those exciting questions that I have prepared for the gentlemen with me here today. They both have a wealth of experience and insight to this, so buckle up, everyone. This is going to be interesting. So first, I have Jayant Kulkarni with me from HSBC. Everybody knows who HSBC are, but can you tell us a little bit about your role there and what you are working on now that's exciting and relevant to this discussion here today?
Hi, Camilla, and hello, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. I'm taking care of domestic payments for HSBC's transaction banking business. So we are part of cash management, as a lot of people know, right? And I take care of the domestic payments product within GLCM and focuses on a lot of the exciting things happening in this space. Just to sort of call out, so I want to thematize into two areas, two sections. One, the industry-led initiatives, primarily real-time payments, infrastructure, QR, request to pay, and we are investing heavily as a bank. And it's amazing to see what value these technologies are delivering to our customers. And on the other side, we are also actively involved in DLT, central bank digital currencies discussions. And that's, again, the exciting area to watch out for. The second theme is on the product launches. So we hear constant feedback from the customers around their pain points, and we're constantly investing and improving our product and offering. So we heard from customers that they're looking at omni-channel collection experience, and that's how we supported them with our Omni Collect product, which supports digital collection across cards, wallets, real-time payment schemes, and the local payment methods. And what is exciting to see is last 1 year, we processed over 30 million transactions. So again, quite happy to see the growth there. The other key themes which keep emerging from a customer engagement is the invoice reconciliation challenges. And to address that, we built something called a digital account receivables tool. And this will also help our customers to sort of manage their ecosystem quite well. To help manage clients' accounts and the complexities associated with the accounting structure, we worked on a next-gen virtual account solution. And it's amazing to see, again, how many new use cases that are sort of cropping up on back of that. And AI/ML is another area where we are sort of working and investing quite heavily. And we have come up with a few use cases recently. And Camilla, I can go on endlessly on this particular topic, but I will sort of stop here and pass it back to you.
I think that says everything about this panel in one way and the space we're in. You could probably talk for 30 minutes about the exciting things you're doing. And I think it's very few jobs out there where you can do that. But let's shift over to Benjamin Quinlan from the Quinlan Associates. Tell us a little bit what you focus on and what's exciting for the time being.
Well, the main hat I wear running my firm is as a strategic consultancy, and we've been working a lot with the FS and Fintech ecosystem, where we specialize, particularly with the virtual banks, among the new applications that you've seen in Hong Kong, Singapore, then Malaysia. Also with the rollout of the various products that they're considering. You know, you've got wealth management, insurance, other solutions on the cards. They all started with basic savings, emerging into the payments ecosystem. They're what we would call the unsecured lending as well. A lot of them looking at how to leverage their accumulated data to start to drive faster, more efficient lending decisions. So yeah, a fascinating ecosystem. And I think when I say that word, I also mean in the sense that many people are looking at the architecture of banking from more of an open ecosystem. Who do we plug into with our partners? Who do we connect into to scale this? It doesn't all have to fit just under one single unified umbrella, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big topic. So today we're going to focus more on the technology piece of it, more than actually the business models. But before we dive in there, Jayant, you're at the bank. What is actually the difference between a digital bank, a challenger bank, and a neobank? Yes, so we give that to the audience when we are talking.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, a digital bank is basically where there's a licensing in place, okay, where there's a proper license, and we've seen sort of this part of the world in Hong Kong. There are few of them really emerged last few years, like 𝐍𝐴 Bank, VLab has also launched right bank, and Ben can sort of answer that quite well because he's been extensively working with them. But yeah, essentially they have an underlying license to operate and to offer the services to the consumers, to the customers, and neobanks are more a partnership, and they don't have sort of underlying licenses to offer the services. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think the terms are often interchangeable when you talk to people on the street, or at least in our groups. I think it's important to put there. And also when we come in about embedded, where is actually the servant and who owns the license. But Benjamin, we had our pre-chat, and you actually pulled up a really interesting slide there that showed a few of the technologies that, let's call them the enablers for those new banking services banks that's coming out. Could you just pull up the slide and point to a few that you find are the most important?
Sure, no problem. Just a slight clarification on my end, actually. The way I interpret a digital bank versus a neobank or a virtual bank is really just whether it has branches or not. So a neobank or a virtual bank just is not allowed to have any physical branches, whereas a digital bank, it can still be what you would call phygital in nature. It could have branches, but with online and digital capabilities. But to your question, which is really what technologies are being used, you can see here, we've done a lot of work around the Hong Kong virtual banking landscape, and you can see the 8 virtual banks across the top, the retail focused ones, Mox, Livy, WeLab, Fusion, the retail skewed, so they have some SME as well, 𝐍𝐴 Bank and Airstar, and then you have the SME focused ones, which are really PAO Bank as well as Ant Bank. And we look at the technology across the entire customer journey. So if you look at it from the 3 core clusters of acquisition, servicing, and maintenance. So acquisition, the prospecting, marketing, a lot of use of social media, targeted ads, SEO, ASO, things that traditional banks haven't used as well in the past, because a lot of this being delivered through the app, right? Onboarding, it's gone from here's your paper processes, multiple days, to 2 to 3 minutes doing a selfie with OCR, taking a photo of your ID. So a lot of OCR, facial recognition, other tools being used to streamline and automate that onboarding process. Product development, they then look at your financial data, your payments habits, your app usage data, your metadata tied into here, as well as third-party data, so it may be independent credit scores and so on. That builds a very rich ecosystem from which they can better understand your digital footprint and then deliver the right kind of products and services to you. Those products and services then being further enhanced through things like your budgeting tools, more gamification. We're seeing 𝐍𝐴 Quest as one of the key deliverables that they rolled out to all of their users as well. And then credit scoring being extremely important, because all the traditional ways that banks credit score, they're very much not done in the same way when you look at the ability to leverage alternative data. And then all the other back-end stuff around maintenance, which is really your chatbots, your live chats, your 24/7 hotlines, in-contact support. Chatbot stands out here as probably the core differentiator with some of the traditional banks have been doing. And then data management, leveraging cloud, like Mox famously being the first bank to be built on full public cloud infrastructure in Hong Kong, right? As well as the cybersecurity and fraud detection software being used. So the whole journey, in a nutshell, being serviced by a plethora of technology, which is really digitally native from the ground up, and you know, the whole emphasis is there is no legacy lag here, which you would see, you know, in a more traditional banking environment.
Yeah, I'm such a geek. I get excited just looking at each of those buckets. And maybe after, when we're in the same location once, we can have a little fireside chat on each topic going along. But Jayant, over to you, and when we look at those enabler, what has been the most important for HSBC when you have been developing your digital bank offerings?
Yeah, so thanks, Ben, for showcasing that. Okay, so one, I think we are embracing almost most of the technologies in our product development that Ben called out. And this sort of technologies are helping us to build innovative products. Okay, but what I would say is, rather than one that stands out to me, probably this is a combination, right? It's basically working well for us. Just to give an example, in Hong Kong, we have a retail mobile banking app, and there's a nice sort of FPX app is embedded as part of that. So nice journeys, okay, where customers can use it seamlessly for scanning the QR code and making the payment. So those are combination of 2 and 3 technologies. So that's like API that also supports facial recognition, that also supports biometric, right? So I think those are the combination that's working sort of well for us. Again, what sort of Ben sort of touched upon it is the APIs capability. So I think we have APIs that we use for the payments or the reporting sort of thing, and it's kind of central to what we do. Okay, and of course, the cloud is becoming very popular because we see the payment volumes are growing at multifold because customer wants to make more frequent payments, and that's where to address the scalability issue, clouds comes into handy. So yeah, we basically use most of the technologies in our day-to-day, and just called out few examples how they are really helping us.
Yeah, so if we bucket them in there to mobile, cloud, API, and AI, would you say that any of those that is underused or have latent potential for HSBC?
Yeah, okay. So I think I would say all those 4 themes are at various stages of sort of evolution, I would say. So when it comes to data, yes, I think that's where the lot can be done. We have done a lot of new use cases recently, but frankly, the possibilities are so enormous, and probably we're just scratching the surface at this point in time. And there are a lot of use cases that can emerge, and that's an area where I think, to answer your point, right, we are focusing as well. But yeah, there are a lot of things, dependencies that needs to be addressed before we get there.
Yep. Every story always ends up in data. Whatever topic you talk about, you dig long enough and you're going to data as the answer, I think. Then when you're looking at the differences between the incumbents and the digital banks, how do you see they use those different and actually using and leveraging those enablers?
I think the biggest challenge is to go to your last point around data. If you go to any traditional incumbent bank, a lot of their data is heavily siloed. It's on-prem infrastructure. There is more migration to cloud, but there's a massive challenge around legacy systems having a lack of interoperability, so they don't speak to each other. And as a result of that, there's no one golden source of truth. This has been a problem that traditional banks have grappled with for such a long time, which is why even when you look at a finance department of a traditional bank, it's a constant headache to reconcile and ensure that all the information that they're looking at is actually what the business front line sees. Then you've got all these overlays with service level agreements. Does it integrate with a CRM tool? It's hopeless, like I have to say. And at the banks that I've worked at in my career, it's been a bit of a joke in terms of having that centralized single point of view. I think with the new challenger banks, you are seeing much more effective use of data, as well as what I would call the alternative data. So, you know, when you look at the credit scoring decisions of the virtual banks, many of them had what I would call some kind of a history in the peer-to-peer lending space. So this is like the original buy now, pay laters, BNPLs, where you started to look at metadata on your phone and screen for things like what kind of gambling apps do you have on your phone? Do you have other lending apps? So what do your core records look like? This was a huge, rich repository of information to start to evaluate the trustworthiness of individuals when it came to something like credit scoring. And it's an area that the traditional banks have been hopeless at. They still show me your proof of employment, show me your salary statements. I mean, that's like old school credit scoring. And when you look at the technology and how it's being, you know, delivered to drive more instantaneous, rapid decisions, which ultimately benefits the customer a lot from a customer experience perspective, there is no competition between what you're seeing with the new age disruptors versus the traditional models.
Yeah, if we can find a way how to slice and dice that data, lots of value can be. We were recently in a workshop and we talked about the transparency across the value chain, and where this global bank put up their hand and say, I can't say the same customer in the next department because we have no transparency in the data buckets. So it's lots to do in that space, but maybe AI can solve some of that. So let's just pick both of your brain. What would you like to see, or maybe what is the most exciting use you've seen of AI in your organization or Ben among your clients, and what would you like to see? So Jayant, I start with you.
Yeah, so I think as Ben mentioned, right, so AI has a power to transform the customer's business, right? And as mentioned, I think we're still scratching the surface. While last few years, a couple of years, we have seen quite interesting use cases that are emerging basis the AI. And what we call it as we're providing the actionable insights to the client, and those are really meaningful. Earlier, it was just a collation and a combination of data and presented. Okay, but now we reached the stage where we're progressing sort of on that front. So just to give, say, a couple of examples, right? So we have this liquidity management portal that we recently rolled out, which gives a cash flow forecasting, which take combination of the payments data, collections data, the statements, and which provides sort of a meaningful forecast for clients, which they can rely on. And there is accuracy that can be tracked on that as well. Recently, as part of our digital collection proposition, we came out with sort of some actionable insights for our clients, right? For example, if any customer wants to know which are the payment methods that they are receiving payments from, and if they want to incentivize one of the payment methods or incentivize one of the payment methods, they can run campaigns around it. So that's kind of a meaningful, actionable sort of insights that we're able to give them. Another example is, say, if a particular store, if they are doing a transaction, what is a time frame when they see a huge transaction flow coming in, so they can manage their resourcing. And if that happens to be the online stores, they can manage their bandwidth accordingly. So yeah, we've seen it. Are they really good enough? But I think we're progressing. I think that's extremely important. So those are a few use cases that I want to call out that we have seen work very well and sort of resonates very well with the clients as well. Yeah, thank you. And Ben?
I don't really think it's AI in the banking world. It's a lot of it is just ML, RPA. It's sometimes I think it's a bit grand to give something the term artificial intelligence. You are doing much more machine learning with larger pieces of data. It goes to the point that I was mentioning before around credit scoring, and then moving into things like fraud detection as well, particularly around payments transactions, right? So observing these patterns or behaviors or incidences where things could be flagged as suspicious and warrant the attention of a compliance officer. The problem is, I think where you're trying to get into, if I just isolate that example and get real AI in, which is where it's predictive analytics to say something is going to go wrong, we can forecast something to go afoul here. That's where the technology hasn't really proven that it's adding incremental value over and above what it would do if it was just looking at a backtrack view of what has happened in the world. So that predictive view is always going to be difficult. And as soon as you get into the predictive area with stuff like advisory, if you're looking at something like Robo, you put together a fund, it's very difficult. And I think the reality is most of the tools that are designed to provide, let's say, a wealth solution to end customers, they're built around very simple products, which is just an aggregation of ETFs that spread risk along broader risk-based investment objectives, right? What are your risks and goals? And based on a track record, this could be a model portfolio for you. Would I call this truly cutting-edge artificial intelligence? Absolutely not. But I think when it comes to the world of banking, it's not about that. It's about making things more efficient, more effective, and delivering a simpler, cleaner, more engaging consumer experience. And to that extent, these tools have been able to do those things.
Yeah, I agree. The terminology AI is quite grand, and machine learning and data analytics, we use them a bit interchangeable. But I do think it has a great power specifically around this, around robo-advice, and we actually can let the end consumers start to give their own suggestions. So the robots are getting smarter and smarter with what they're suggesting. But when we're looking at truly digital businesses, we often say that they are really focused around the customer problem, and then they look at the adjacent problems and build that offering to create more and more value for the customer. So we're coming into that ecosystem play. Jayant, can you speak about like when has technology in an excellent way really put the customer in the focus of the solutions you recently have launched?
Yeah, so I think, we work day in, day out basis and helping clients digitize their business and solve the problem. But yeah, I think a couple of examples that resonates to my mind to this question is recently we worked with one of the biggest food and grocery delivery company, and they use our HSBC payment APIs to pay and delivery riders faster in a digital way, right? So our payment APIs were integrated with the rider's mobile banking app, and rider has a flexibility to decide as and when they want to cash out, right? They want to sort of take the accrued commission back into their bank account. So this in a way help company to satisfy the rider community and at the same time increase the better customer experience. So again, the power of a smallest technology, right? APIs backed on real-time based payments, giving sort of empowerment to the end driver in this case, or delivery riders in this case. So that's really helped both parties, right? And customers are able to manage their ecosystem quite well. Another example is in B2B space, where one of the major logistics provider in Indonesia use our digital account receivables tool, and they had a pain points around reconciliations, not able to identify who is paid them. There was a lot of manual activity going within the organization, a lot of delays, a lot of chaotic process, and they're able to sort of reach 100% automation, leveraging on this technology, and which were like 40% before. So I think they've seen a huge benefit of that. So these are the two examples come to mind where technology has actually helped clients to at least digitize the processes and offer better outcomes to their either employees or their ecosystem.
I think that's great examples also, because I think it's important that when technology is really applied on a customer problem, it often also solves who is supplying the technology. It's just smoother journey, so it helps you who's offering the product, and then it also helps the end consumer. So great examples. So Ben, looking at ecosystem around digital services, what do you see there? Tell us some exciting examples that you've been working with.
I mean, it's what I would call it is kind of this vertical and horizontal integration point. So even when you look at the standalone, let's just take it to different modules across what a digital or virtual bank would do. So in payments, in lending, there's a lot of standalone players in the fintech ecosystem that do these things. And what you've seen is, okay, well, like in the buy now, pay later world, a lot have said, well, let's solve for scale, right? Let's acquire and merge with other BNPL firms. I challenge that. I think the business model is inherently flawed because it's one of a problem with unit economics. It's not a scale issue, right? And it's going to continue to face that. But then you've seen, okay, that's on the lending side. Then the vertical integration as opposed to the horizontal is payments. So you've seen like Stripe, Afterpay, you've seen Japan's Paydi PayPal acquire Japan's Paydi, right? So these are payments firms that said, well, why don't we link up with BNPL? So, any of our customers looking to go through our gateway and make a digital payment online, well, guess what? If you don't have the money, ta-da, we have a BNPL offering attached to this. So there's a lot more thought process around that vertical integration process.
Yeah, that is a really answer, and that's whole ecosystem play is something that I really enjoy talking about. In this, I guess that sitting in the ecosystem, but it's so much value that can be added and so much value for the end consumer when we really can help and give them the next value add or the next service. So we're sort of coming to the end of this. We have 5 more minutes. So we're just going to spend them on looking at if there is one thing that could happen, either be a technology, regulation, whatever, that would really take digital banking and its offering to the next level. What could that be? Jayant?
Okay, so I think there are, multiple factors to this, right? So not call out, box out one particular thing. But yeah, I think one is a little more sort of open regulations, right? So look at one of the examples, right? So now the data sharing norms, so the cross-border data sharing norms are becoming much more stricter, right? So which will put a lot of stress on IT organizations to come up with the solutions and have the bespoke solutions for the market, which restricts sharing data to cross-border. And look at bank like ours, we have global and regional clients who would want to see, say, in case of example of data, they would want to see data aggregated across the globe, right? And at a tip of their fingers. But this may not be possible because of all this stringent non coming in. So I think that could be one area to my mind that needs to be sort of improved and some work needs to be done there. Another area is, I think the steps have started happening in those directions is, I think there are multiple technologies or tech stacks are in silos, right? So how can we sort of combine them and offer that as a benefit to the consumers and the businesses? So one step in that direction we have seen is all these real-time payment schemes, they are super hit in the respective markets, but now also I think some of the regulators are trying to see how can they sort of do a cross-border, right, connect to particular real-time payment scheme. And I think to my mind, that's going to offer immense benefit to both consumers and the businesses going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That interoperability between payments. I guess we are on the payment side in this conversation. So let's turn to Ben also and see what he thinks could be something that could take it to the next level.
I think it's like an altruistic view of the world and the utopia. But again, in everything that we see as consumers, we go through a massive period of what we call app fatigue, right? There's only so many apps that we want to be on at any one time. And what you're seeing is the race by some of these VBs to become a super app enveloped ecosystem. So it's like, this is a one-stop shop. We manage all your financial needs. You want to order food, you can just do it through this app. You want to do that, everything is through your app. You want to go to a movie, through your app. You want to pay your bills, through your app. So it's all well and good, but I think I would love it if there was some way that you could literally modularize all the technology out there and just take the best parts of everything in more of an open, white labeled application where you can bank at multiple banks, and you can get the following trading services at HSBC. You can get your loan from ZA Bank because they have the best rates, but you don't have to do it through 17 different interfaces. You can just do it through one single application and kind of central banking portal. If anyone can develop something like that, they're going to be a very wealthy person.
Oh, sounds fantastic.
So thanks for the startup idea.
This has been fantastic. I think we covered a lot in very short time. Audience, I hope you liked the tempo. My submission in what I would love to see, if I can say, is that digital identity layer and underlying data. I think that's going to tie a lot of those conversations together. But there is light in the tunnel. A lot of initiatives is on the way. So with that, from this Fireside chat, we're saying thank you very much to the team at BFSI. And Anisha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Camilla, for this Fireside chat. It shows that all of you had a good time just chatting about what's coming up. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with everyone. And I'm sure all the participants have really liked this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.